You mentioned the issue of activism now. That's something that worries me a little bit, because it seems that we have, on the one hand, archaeologists, anthropologists that are ready to work for corporations or for international agencies, which are a little bit dubious from an ethical point of view. And on the other hand, you have people that describe themselves as activists. And I'm not quite sure about this label of activists. What does activism implies? I mean, I don't consider myself an activist, because I think that for being a true activist, you really have to have a long-term, intense engagement with the people you're working with. I mean, you have to be, run the risk of being killed, for example. Having the sharing the situation of the conditions of work of real activists, either political activists or environmentalist activists. And I think that we are starting to use this label of activist archaeologists a little bit too generously to people that are not in this situation. So I think that I think that being an activist archaeologist or being an activist anthropologist, it really the best thing you can do. I mean, if you really have the guts to do it, the conditions to do it. But I don't think that most of us are in this situation. So I think that it's not that we should not try to do something that is really practical, have a more active engagement with the local communities, but I think that we should not fool ourselves and think that we are really becoming activists by having this practical engagement. And I insist that I think that most of our work is, or the gist of our work is intellectual, is in critique. I mean, this is probably the continental European tradition, the French tradition of sitting in a beautiful cafe and just criticizing. But it might sound a little bit like that. But I think even if it looks that we are living in an ivory tower and criticizing, in our departments or at Stanford University, in tiny bubbles, I think that our work as engaged intellectuals is important, and you don't see the benefits immediately, but in the long term, I think it has. What surprises me is not that they do not value archaeological sites or material evidence from the past. Is I think the lack of a collective sense of the past on one hand, and the idea that the past is important in some sense. I mean, I think that there is something quite basically human about that, about this collective identity based on the past. And I think that if you don't have that, and I don't mind if it's based on traditional dances or a particular tree, or worshipping a certain god, if you don't have these, it's because you have a problem with this community. That's my impression. And what we are finding is that they really have a problem, or several problems that can be explained historically. Especially for this kind of group, because I mean there are groups like the hunter-gatherers, for example, that have a notion of the past which is completely different. So I wouldn't try to find in them these sort of heritage values that I'm trying to find in these people. But